After the brutal chaos of 28 Days Later, the sequel, 28 Weeks Later, picks up the story from a new, darker, and more hopeless angle. This time, original creators Danny Boyle and Alex Garland step back into producer roles, handing the reins to director Juan Carlos Fresnadillo. Still, the nightmare's essence remains intact, with a cast led by Robert Carlyle, Rose Byrne, Jeremy Renner, and Idris Elba. The film expands the Rage virus universe with even more action, tension, and heartbreak. What happens when the hope of rebuilding turns into a second wave of horror? In this video, we break down everything you need to know about 28 Weeks Later, and why its impact still lingers. The story opens with a tragic prologue. A small group of survivors is hiding out in a countryside house. Among them are Don and Alice, a married couple who are anxious but somewhat relieved. Their children are safe abroad, apparently in Spain, far from the chaos. As they share a quiet meal, their peace is shattered by the distant cries of a child.
Wait. Don, who's that now?
Don, it's a kid!
At first, they hesitate, but eventually let him in. The boy says he's been running from his infected family, and it doesn't take long for disaster to strike. A horde of infected breaches the house, and the group is quickly overwhelmed. One by one, they fall. In a frantic escape, loved ones are left behind, turning into monsters. Don is the sole survivor. In a heartbreaking moment, he abandons Alice when she becomes trapped, a decision many would question.
Don! Help us!
But in his mind, it was either flee or leave his children orphaned. Ironically, that very choice may end up sealing humanity's fate. Don escapes downriver on a small boat, haunted by his act of cowardice. 5 weeks later, the infected had died off from starvation, a lack of food. By week 18, the area was officially declared infection-free. Then, 24 weeks after the initial outbreak, the US military took charge of overseeing the repopulation of the Isle of Dogs, a secured, heavily monitored safe zone that had been cleared for civilian resettlement. A plane arrives carrying a new group of civilians, among them 2 children who may either save humanity or doom it, siblings Tammy and Andy. Upon arrival, they're screened by Major Scarlett Levy, a military doctor. She's visibly frustrated with her superiors for not being informed that children were now allowed into the quarantine zone. During the routine medical checks, she notices that Andy has heterochromia, a rare condition where each eye is a different color. The children are then transported by train to reunite with their father. Along the way, the heavy military presence and constant security checkpoints are impossible to miss. Upon reaching their destination, District 1, the siblings reunite with their father, Don, the sole survivor from the prologue. The city is under tight surveillance, with snipers stationed across key points, among them Sergeant Doyle. Overhead, his friend Flynn patrols from a helicopter. Don explains to his kids that he works as a custodian, or something along those lines, which gives him access to nearly every area within the zone. He shows them their temporary new home, a spacious penthouse in a secure building within the safe zone. He tells them they can't return to their old house just yet, which makes sense. It's still in a restricted area, where bodies haven't been cleared and infected animals may still be present. Don also shares how their mother was lost, but carefully avoids mentioning that he left her behind. Sensing something's off, Tammy asks again if he actually saw her die. Overcome with guilt, Don breaks down in tears, grieving not only the loss of his wife, but the growing fear that his children may never forgive him.
Was there nothing you could do? We're just happy you're still alive.
That night, Andy admits he's afraid he'll forget what his mother looked like. Tammy promises him they'll find a photo to remember her by. The next morning, the siblings sneak out of the safe zone, slipping past security and heading toward their old home. The only one who spots them is Sergeant Doyle, who quickly reports over the radio that 2 children have crossed the perimeter. Far from being discreet, the kids make plenty of noise, even managing to steal a motorcycle, since their house is located far from the repopulated area. Along the way, the ruins of the city tell a silent story of chaos and destruction. When they finally reach their home, they continue making noise, a reckless move considering the danger. But what they find is beyond what they imagined. Not only do they recover a photo of their mother, they find her alive, hiding inside the house. The reunion, however, is less tender than expected. Alice seems distant, even harsh, when she hugs her son. Moments later, the military arrives to retrieve the children, and unexpectedly, they take Alice with them. And that marks the beginning of the end. Back at the military lab, Alice is decontaminated, quarantined, and examined by Scarlett. It doesn't take long for her to notice a bite mark, yet Alice shows no signs of infection. After running a blood test, Scarlett confirms what seems impossible. Alice carries the rage virus, but she's asymptomatic, a carrier. This rare form of immunity could be the key to developing a vaccine, maybe even a cure, but General Stone, the man in charge of the entire operation, sees it differently. To him, keeping her alive is too big a risk. Since she can still transmit the virus through saliva, he orders all further testing to be done post-mortem. When Don is informed that his wife has been found alive, his reaction isn't exactly the joyful reunion one might expect.
Thank you so much. We found your wife, too.
He first goes to see his children, trying to justify the version of events he previously told them.
You said you saw her die.
What?
Tammy, for her part, always believed their mother might still be alive. Using his security clearance, Don gains access to the quarantine zone and has a brief but emotional conversation with Alice. Despite everything, they admit they still love each other.
I love you, Don. Oh God, I love you too.
But, in a tragic turn, a kiss between them transmits the virus. Losing all control, Don brutally attacks Alice. In a moment eerily reminiscent of the first film, he kills her with savage force, echoing the infamous scene where Jim took a life in a similar frenzy. Then, in one of the film's most inexplicable transitions, Don manages to infect several soldiers, without any of them managing to shoot him first. When it's discovered that an infected individual is on the loose, General Stone initiates Code Red.
Move civilians to containment areas.
All command personnel are secure and
Execute Code Red.
A protocol as questionable as it is baffling. The military's response: lock all civilians inside an underground parking garage without clearing the area first, without posting guards, and with the lights turned off. Turning off the lights in the middle of the night with an infected person running loose might be one of the most irrational decisions in the entire plot. Amid the chaos, Major Scarlett manages to rescue the siblings. But as they try to escape to safety, Andy gets separated in the crowd. He ends up stuck with a panicked, unstable group of people. Then, he hears something behind a door, a sound that signals disaster. His father, Don, has arrived, ready to unleash absolute carnage. Trapped in the dark, Don infects everyone he encounters. Thankfully, Andy manages to escape through a ventilation shaft. The crowd flees the building in a panic. Outside, a group of soldiers awaits, ready to shoot any infected on sight. But in the chaos, it's nearly impossible to tell who's infected and who isn't. As a result, General Stone gives the chilling order to fire on everyone, treating mass execution as containment. Oddly enough, this task could have been handled far more efficiently using the mounted machine guns seen earlier in the film rather than individual rifles. Tammy and Scarlett manage to take shelter in a nearby building where they reunite with Andy. They're soon joined by Sergeant Doyle, who abandoned his post after refusing to follow the order to kill unarmed civilians. But the nightmare is just beginning. They now have to escape District 1, running not only from the infected, but from soldiers who are shooting indiscriminately. As they navigate the devastated city, they get help over the radio from Flynn, who's circling above in a helicopter. He tells Doyle he can pick them up outside the London perimeter, but they need to hurry. The military is about to launch a full-scale napalm strike on the entire island. At Regent's Park, the group takes a brief moment to rest. Scarlett tells Doyle that the kids may hold the key to stopping the virus. Their mother had immunity. Their survival now takes priority above all else.
Their mother had very special blood, a natural kind of immunity to the virus. So their lives are far more valuable than mine or yours.
But the calm doesn't last. Over the radio, Flynn warns Doyle that he's en route, and so are a pack of infected. Things take a tense turn when Flynn realizes he can't fit everyone in the chopper. He grows unexpectedly nervous, even aggressive, when a panicked civilian tries to climb aboard. What follows is one of the film's most memorable scenes. Forced to keep moving, the group now heads for Wembley Stadium, where Flynn has agreed to pick them up. During their escape, they take shelter inside a car to avoid a wave of toxic gas. But when the military begins torching the infected zone, the car won't start. In a final act of bravery, Doyle sacrifices himself, pushing the vehicle through the chaos as flames and bullets rain down. The others make their getaway, taking refuge underground in the war-torn remains of London. Now they must make their way through a pitch-black tunnel, using only the night vision scope from Doyle's rifle to see. A tense, horror movie-worthy sequence. As they carefully step over corpses, they slip and fall down a staircase. That's when, out of nowhere, Dawn appears again and attacks Major Scarlett. Tammy manages to find the rifle and starts searching for her brother, only to discover that Dawn has bitten him. In a shocking but necessary move, Tammy unloads the rifle into her own father, doing what the military failed to do from the start, and possibly saving countless lives in the process. Andy runs away, terrified, believing he's now infected. Tammy follows him through the tunnel. She checks his eye.
Am I one of them?
No, you're not.
Sees the truth. He is infected, but lies to him, saying he's going to be fine. Another emotional decision, one that could doom all of Europe. Or maybe not. When they reach the stadium, Flynn rescues them and they flee the country, heading toward France. "28 days later, in the final scene, we see Flynn's helicopter abandoned. Desperate radio calls echo in the background, and a horde of infected charges toward the Eiffel Tower. 28 weeks later, had a budget of $15 million and grossed around $65 million worldwide. While it received generally positive reviews, the script felt full of more holes than its predecessor. Plot conveniences and the lack of emotional connection with the new protagonists, Tammy and Andy, made it hard to ignore the absence of Jim, Selena, and Hannah, the survivors from the first film. The harshest criticism fell on Dawn's bizarre behavior. He didn't act like a regular infected, more like a tracker on a mission to find his family. Somehow, he manages to escape napalm strikes, survive toxic gas, dodge military bullets, and still show up for the final showdown in the subway. There are questionable plot choices too, like the lack of guards at the quarantine sector, or how Don was able to kill armed soldiers without stealth. These are details that could have been handled better. Still, the film retains enough tension and brutality to feel like a true sequel to 28 Days Later. The announcement of a third installment excited fans, especially with Danny Boyle returning as director and the possibility of Cillian Murphy reprising his role. So far, Murphy is only confirmed as an executive producer, but Sony Pictures has officially picked up the franchise and confirmed that it will be a new trilogy. Although many speculated that the story would shift to France, it looks like we're staying on the island. With Jodie Comer, Aaron Taylor-Johnson, and Ralph Fiennes headlining the cast, expectations are sky high for the final chapter in a franchise that started nearly 25 years ago. Honestly, waiting 3 more years would have made the title 28 Years Later perfect. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that like button and tell me in the comments. What did 28 Weeks Later mean to you? Is it on par with the first? And do we need Cillian Murphy back to breathe life into the story? I'll be reading all your comments. See you in the next video.